Good morning, YouTube. So in this video I wanted to share some of the experiences I've had so far with geocaching on my bike rides, but this would also apply to any sort of geocaching which is offline, or that is you don't have a data connection. So anyway, just to give you a little context, this is San Francisco Bay, Pacific Ocean in California. Yeah, so if we zoom in a little bit here, here's Cupertino, California, which is the headquarters of Apple. And in fact, I ride right by the new Apple Campus 2, the spaceship, on my way out to this bike riding area. Once you get up to this reservoir here, you're getting into these canyons on the coastal mountain range. And by the time you get to this point here, that's about the end of your data connection on your smartphone. For my first test, I decided to pick this particular geocache here. And one of the reasons I picked it is it's right on this intersection of two different roads. And I know where that area is. I mean, literally there's a stop sign. So I got into the area, and then I used the navigate menu on the bike GPS and said find this location. And you ride up the road here and the distance to go keeps counting down, and when you get to a minimum value of that distance to go, that's where you stop. And so I got out and tried to use the bike GPS to find this geocache. One of the problems you run into is, if we zoom out a little bit, this geocache is probably around the 800-foot elevation, or you can see on the contour line there, that's 250 meters. This ridge line here, right here, is the 550 contour. This is 600 meters, so you're looking at a pretty close to a 2,000-foot deep canyon here. And this is only about a mile from the ridge down to this bottom of the canyon. So it's a very deep, steep-sided canyon, so you don't see much sky. So this is your satellite view. All that green stuff there, those are trees. And you can just barely see the road in there. So there's a lot of trees in this area. And those two things combine to give you very poor location accuracy. So I typically see something like 35 feet or 10-meter accuracy. And you can see down here, this is the maximum zoom you can go into on this map. So the closest you can zoom in is about 100 feet here, or 30 meters, and your accuracy is about a third of that. So roughly the size of that icon. So like I said, there's a lot of trees in that area, and there's a lot of trees within a 70-foot diameter circle, and these geocaches are usually hidden in a tree or at the base of a tree. Which tree is that geocache hidden in? So that's one problem you run into. And then on the bike GPS, here's the screen. This is roughly a 2.5-inch diagonal screen, 160 by 240 pixels. Here's the display when you're navigating. This triangle is where you are, and then this push pin, it's got a blue head on a pin, and then the pin is stuck into the map. That's what you see. The push pin and your current location are right on top of each other, and you can't tell what direction you need to go because the 2 points are on top of each other. And you can see the same thing here. I can zoom into the 100-foot range here on the geocaching web page. And with a good map, you can at least see that it's on this side of the intersection. It's not over here. It's not over here. On the bike GPS, you can't even tell that. So I thought, let's fire up the smartphone and the geocaching app and see if it does any better. So I did that, and I learned a lesson that if you don't use that geocaching app for a few days, you get logged out, and you cannot log into the application unless you have a data connection. And I'm in the bottom of this 2,000 foot deep canyon, and luckily I was able to wander around enough here that I got a really weak data connection to the point I could log in, and then I could also access my list. So I've added this cache to my bookmark list. So with that, you can download this information, because on my bike computer I only see this code number, but with the app running you can see the name of the cache and then like the difficulty. So this is how well hidden is the cache. The terrain says how hard is it physically to get to it, and then you have the cache size, which in this case is small. And then if you click on the link there, you get this additional page and you get this description that talks about the location, and it says it's placed in a precarious location. It can be wet and slippery. Well, there's a little creek that runs through there, so okay, it's somewhere in the creek. But I went down here then to this hint. This was the clue that told me where it was. So there was a little peninsula that jutted out into the creek channel with a couple of trees on it, and I was able to find the cache. Luckily, all that helped locate this thing. This was a small cache, and I wasn't able to put my trackable device into there. So I thought, okay, I'm headed up this way. So let's zoom out a bit, several miles farther up the road here until I got to this cache. And up here, I had the app running, I had the list loaded, but this was all the information I could get on it. If you're offline and you just have the list loaded, this is all you see. You see the name of the cache and then these various ratings, the size. This was another small one, but that was it. I couldn't find it. I walked around. There was a lot of dry brush and weeds and whatnot around this area, and I managed to scratch my legs up pretty good in here, and I gave up after about 10 minutes. And this one I decided I'll wait till spring when all the dead weeds are broken down and you have some nice new growth on the ground. I'm doing this off of my bike, so I've got the bike shorts and I've got mountain bike shoes with the clipless cleats on them, so you're really not set up to do a lot of hiking off trail. So I decided to pass on that one, and then I went up a little farther and I had the same luck here. I tried looking for this one, and I'll show you here where the hint would really help. It says it's placed in an interesting tree on the trail. But this hint down here, it says, look for 5 fingers. So if you've ever seen the movie from the 60s called Mad, 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 Mad World, look for the 5 fingers. Remember in that movie, they were looking for the big W. So this hint here would be really, really, really handy. Look for 5 fingers. It's camouflaged with leaves right next to the trail and north of the creek. But I didn't have this data. I couldn't get it on my smartphone because I didn't have a data connection. Fail there, number 2. And then I picked, I think, this cache here. I couldn't find it. And then I think I went up to this one and I couldn't find that one either. All the same problem. They were limited position accuracy and no data connection. So let's take a look at a couple of options to help with the no data connection problem. So one of the things you can do for offline geocaching is that you can add individual geocaches to a list. So you just click on the add to list, and I just have the default new bookmark list. So both the add to list and download GPX functions are what's considered premium features. So that means you have to have a paid membership to use those things. So I just wanted to show you a couple of options that you have if you just want to try out geocaching. So one thing you can do is click on the name of the geocache there, and it'll take you to the description page. One thing you can do is just go here, copy and paste that latitude and longitude, and then you can come over here to Google Maps, paste that in, and right there you've got a location in Google Maps. So like I could probably do something like that. If I copy, I could go over here to Google Maps and I could add a label. I've now labeled that place, so I could actually do geocaching with Google Maps. The other thing that I found that's often useful is there's this geocache description, and then down here they have these additional hints. I was looking for some way to get this information available on my smartphone when I was offline. And what I used to do was just print this whole page and take the sheet of paper with me. So I thought back to the old Windows 3 days, and there used to be an old program called CardFile that Microsoft shipped. And it basically was a digital card file or Rolodex. And I was looking around to see if perhaps there was a program like that that ran on Windows, and I have an Android phone, so I wanted a program that ran on both Windows and Android. So I searched around and I found this. Let's see if we can get the name there. There's the URL. I'll put a link to this in the video description, but it's pnewman.com, and he wrote this really excellent little program called RDex, I guess short for Rolodex. It's a simple personal information manager. But anyway, he's got a version for Windows, there's a version for Java, and a version for Android. Yeah, so I went and downloaded the Windows version of RDex, and what I did was create a bunch of cards. So to do that, you just copy the alphanumeric code for the geocache over here and put that on the first line. That now becomes the index tab for that card. And then I took the description and decrypted hint here and pasted that in as the body of the card. And now if I look at my list of cards, I have a bunch of cards here, all sorted alphabetically based on the geocaching number. And then on the PC, I do a file save, and I have that saved to my Dropbox folder, and then that automatically uploads that file to my Dropbox cloud folder. And then on the Android phone, I installed the Android version of RDex. And then I go to my Dropbox app, click on the file that I uploaded from the PC, you mark it as available offline, and then you also say open with, and then pick the RDex application. So that way whenever you open up Dropbox, click on that file, the Android version of RDex pops up, and you have all of this data there. So you just need to make sure to do this while you have a data connection, and then that way that local copy of your RDex file gets downloaded onto your mobile device. That's the important step. And these two functions are what they call premium features, which means you have to have a paid geocaching.com account. So if you don't have that, you could still do geocaching with using this RDex program to save the description, and right there you have a Google Map version of that geocache, and then you can get directions to it. Yeah, so you could use this technique if you wanted to do everything on your smartphone and you didn't currently have a paid geocaching app. So this would be very similar to what I was doing back 14, 15 years ago when I was copying and pasting the coordinates into my GPS, and then I was printing out sheets of paper. But instead of printing out the sheets of paper, just copy and paste the text into an offline available file. Armed with these tools, in the next video we'll see if we can find a geocache that's offline, or basically find one up in the hills with no data connection, and see if we can find a place to put the trackable that I have. So that'll be the next video. If you have any questions about that, post up in the comments section down below. And as always, thanks for watching.